Maureen Jimenez.
Okay, then approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion? Maureen and Leah? Any comments or corrections on the minutes? Okay, all in favor? 5. Okay. Yes, Lynn and Angela are absent. Okay, so committee reports, we have none. So that moves us to the superintendent's report. Dr. Rihanna.
Okay. So we have officially begun the spring season, and with the spring season comes all of the activities happening in all of our buildings that are otherwise known as end-of-the-year events. There will be a number of events and concerts in each of the buildings. I am reaching out to the community to check our website, and whether you are at home or can come to one of our concerts, I would truly invite you to take advantage and see some of our students' talents displayed, whether they are K to 2, 3 to 5, 6 to 8, or high school. I guarantee it'll put a smile on your face. Some of the other activities that we have happening at this point in time, we have something that has returned to Glen Cove. Years ago, we used to have time during the day or during the week, once a week, for community readers, where there were people from the community that, once approved, were able to come into the schools and begin to read to our students. That has been resurrected again. One of our community members who had done this in the past, Ms. Madeline Fugazi, did approach the district with that new literacy initiative. Actually, it is a rebirth of a former literacy initiative. She wanted to establish time for community members to come in and have a standing time to read in our buildings. And with the help of our ELA coordinator, Mrs. Schaefer, this initiative started last Friday. Some of the people that have already come in to work with our students and read to our students, Assemblyman Levine, Mrs. Ronnie Levine, Dr. Israel, and Ms. Godine, and they started reading to our in our primary buildings. I'm sure we will hear from our students how much they enjoyed this, and I am sure this will be an initiative that is loved by all. So I thank all those community members, as well as others who are signing up, I think, as I speak, and I am sure the students, they really, truly love when we have the opportunity to read to a class or read to a group. So I'm looking forward to this initiative moving forward. Yes, oh, okay. I'm already in the other one. All right. This evening, we have a two-part board meeting, and the first part of our board meeting will be specifically towards the budget hearing. We will have an opportunity at this time to review the board-approved budget that is proposed for community input and for community voting. And so at this point in time, I am going to introduce our Assistant Superintendent for Business, Ms. Victoria Galante. Thank you.
Okay, so tonight, is this working?
Push it down a little bit.
So tonight is our budget hearing, and if you've been following along the budget process starts with the presentations in the month of January, and leads us to basically our last presentation of the adopted budget by the Board of Ed tonight. So the Board of Ed adopted the budget for the 2024-2025 school year on April 16th. That budget will bring to the community a tax levy of 2.768%. If you look at the slide, in dollars, for this year that we're in now, it's a little over $75 million. For the 24-25 school year, the levy would be a little over $77 million. I'm going to stop here because I've had some questions. So the question was, does a 2.768 increase require us to pierce the cap and have a supermajority vote? The answer is no. We are still within our legal levy limit, even though it is over 2%. This is the formula that the Office of State Controller gives to all districts that we need to fill out to come out with our levy. The only thing that is 2%, and according to the law, will stay no more than 2%, is that allowable levy growth factor. That cannot exceed 2%, which it is 2% for this year. For next year, I should say, and this year was 2%. So when I did this formula for the district, our legal tax levy limit was a little over $78 million. And that, if you put it in percentages, would have given the community a levy increase of 3.83%. In speaking with administration and the Board of Ed, they thought that was a little too high for the community to handle at this point in time, and they proposed to lower that levy. And that was what was given to the Office of State Controller. The proposed tax levy of that $77 million, which is a $800,000 difference between the legal limit that the formula came out with to what we actually reported to the Office of State Controller. And that's where that 2.78% that you see here comes from. Okay? So I just want to make it clear, we are not piercing the cap. We do not need a supermajority vote for this budget to pass. We are within our legal limit of the levy. Okay. Here's a little history of your tax levies from 2011, 2012, and prior to that. You could see most of the time your levy was over 4%, actually sometimes closer to 5%. And when the levy law came into effect, you could see that, again, it was all driven by that formula. It was 2%, a little over 2%, under 2%. We actually had a negative levy one year, and so on and so forth. Never since 2012, 2013, did the District of Glen Cove ever have to pierce the cap or have a supermajority vote for their budget to pass. All simple majority votes. And the same goes for the 2024-2025 school year. Again, I have to present legally the budget by component, and I'm not going to go through each line. These lines have been presented for a few board meetings now. If you go on to our website, you'll see that each one of these lines is made up of a multiple lines. So each line can have anywhere from 2, 3, or 30 lines that make up the totals. So I'll just go through the lines that are a little bit either where the variances are a little bit higher than normal, and try to explain to the community why that's happening. But again, everything is online. All prior PowerPoints are online for the community to look at. So unallocated insurance, A1910. Yes, it went up over $100,000. We got I believe it was a 19 or 20% increase in our insurance. That was driven by a few things that are going on in the world today. One, the Child Victim Act, and if you listen to the news, you know that we are not the only district dealing with this. Cybersecurity, all the cyber attacks on different districts drives us up, and also just the climate change that is causing a lot of flooding. Just this morning coming in, we had a torrential rain, and maybe for some districts, the way how much rain they got in that short period of time could have caused some kind of flooding for them. Just so you know, our insurance company that we use for this type of insurance is made up of all school districts. It's run by people in my position are on the board. So naturally, we're looking out, they are looking out for all the districts. So it's just not a insurance company that anyone can be part of. It's made up of all the school districts throughout New York State. So for the total admin component, the dollar change is a little over $317,000. The next component is our capital component. And what we'll talk about here is that line A9731, a ban or bond anticipation note. So a couple of years ago, the community passed a bond. We haven't gone out to bond the whole $30 million. What we did, we went out for this year for a ban. They call it a ban, bond anticipation note. And it's only for interest. So by the end of this school year, in June, by June 26th actually, we just have to pay interest. And I believe it's about $300,000 on the $7.5 million that we borrowed. And you can see from what we borrowed, we did a lot of projects. Next year, we put in that line interest and principal. And we're thinking of doing the same thing, just going out to borrow whatever projects we'll be doing over this summer and then pay off either just the interest again or pay off the principal and the interest. And then the following year, so we're into 2025 now, the district will have to go out and bond for the whole $30 million. So right now, we're taking it slow, but by the time 2025 comes, 90% of your projects will be totally complete. You may have a few projects, smaller projects that still have to be done through the bond, but that's when the district will go out and bond. Transfer to capital, the last line, A9950, $1 million. We've had this line in our budget for a couple of years, or more than a couple of years now, and we try to use that money for projects that really need the attention, need to get done. Some of them have been like on the verge of emergency projects that we have to deal with. So with the $1 million in the budget for next year, what we would like to do is the middle school and the high school restrooms in the nurse's office, make them ADA accessible. We'd like to address the HVAC and flooring situation here in the high school library. And we'd like to address the middle school entry stairway when you're in that horseshoe that leads into the auditorium. Those stairs, if you notice, they go down, they're uneven, they are really not safe. So we'd like to address those three projects with the $1 million that is already incorporated in the budget. The last component of the budget is your program component, and that has where all your teaching, whether it's regular school, special ed schools, our students, that's where all this is paid out of. Let's look at line A2330, teaching special schools. For the past 3 years, the district has been providing a summer program for certain grade levels. And that was being funded by the stimulus, part of the stimulus grants that we got from the federal government. Well, that was for 3 years, so that will no longer exist for the 24-25 school year. But the administration and the board wanted to continue a summer program for our students and still try to help them catch up and stay on track. So we put $300,000 in this budget to do that. And I believe information about all that will be going out within the next couple of weeks for those parents that will be involved. This slide, again, your dollar change, your variance, not much going either way. Sometimes you'll see a line going down, and that's usually because a senior staff member may be retired, and we hired new staff members, and naturally they come in on a lower level of salary, so that sometimes drives those lines down. And then on this slide, let's look at 5540, contract transportation. We worked out an agreement with our transportation company, and they will provide for us cameras on all our buses and vans, which we need. Our building principals will tell you almost on a daily basis if there's a problem on a bus. They'd like to see the video to see exactly what was going on. And naturally, we have to pay in the increase in CPI for transportation, so that's involved in that. And then we also added a few extra vehicles, vans or buses, because we do, from time to time, have to transport children to a different school that doesn't fit in time-wise with other schools, so we always try to put in a few more vehicles. So that's really what's driving that line up. Again, this slide, our retirement systems, both employee and teachers, did not go up that much. The liability to the district wasn't that much, so that didn't have big increases on those lines this year. And on this slide, A9060, health insurance. That was another big hit for the district, not only our district, for every district, because most districts, again, use the same healthcare provider. And in some of the categories, we had anywhere from an 18 to a 24% increase. So again, that drove up the health insurance. Dental insurance also went up, and that drove up that line. So the program, again, being the largest of our components, has almost a $4.5 million increase. So if you add up all these lines, it comes to a budget of $113,416,040 for the 2024-2025 budget. Just to let the community know how we got through this budget without cutting programs or anything like that. For the year we're in now, we use two reserves. We always use our tax cert reserve, and we always use our workman's comp reserve. And that was a total of $750,000 in this budget, in this year's budget. For next year's budget, 24-25, we're going to use every one of our reserves that we have. We get, I talk about reserves all the time and the importance of having reserves and having healthy reserves. It's for times like now where all of a sudden from state aid, foundation aid coming in at 3 or 4 million, came in just about 1 million. We lost a pilot that cost the district $1.8 million, and we have all those 20% increases in our different insurances. This is why you need reserves. The reserves will help the district maintain the budget without really devastating the programs that have grown in the district and that we want our children to have. So we're going to be using $1,879,000 worth of our reserves. That leaves our reserves still healthy, and moving forward, since none of us know what the 2025, 26 budget will bring, we'll have more money in our reserves to fund whatever we need to fund in future years. Tomorrow, I believe, or Friday, in the mail will go out this budget notice, 6-day notice, whatever you want to call it. I am not a fan of this notice. I don't think it really tells the story. It gives you a lot of percentages, and you see none of them are what your tax levy increase is going to be, which is what people really want to know. But what it does show the community is a contingency budget. So a contingency budget has to go in place if the district fails its budget twice. So if the budget fails once, the board and administration has to make a decision. Either put the same budget up, put up a different budget, or go straight to contingency. If that second budget goes up and it fails again, then the district has to go on contingency. And what that does, it prevents the district from raising the taxes. So we would have to operate on the same tax levy as this year. So instead of operating in 24, 25 on that 77 million, we'd have to operate on 75 million. That means we'd have to go back and cut just a little over another $2 million. Just so you know, when the budget process started for me, before I started presenting back in December, we had a gap of about $4.3 million. We worked on the budget, I worked on the budget, Dr. Rihanna, and we got that gap down. At one presentation, I believe it was $1.9 million. And then we went back and we got that gap filled. So we had a balanced budget. So now if we have to go back and cut another $2 million, what's going to happen? We're going to definitely have to start looking at class sizes. We're going to have to eliminate all our clubs and school activities, band, orchestra, chorus. It's going to be a combination of a lot of things. Electives have to be probably reduced. Outside communities cannot use our buildings. We'd have to look into sports. We could not purchase any kind of equipment other than anything that is needed by a student. And we would have to look at our staffing across all our units. And one thing that's not on there, we could not do any capital projects. The projects that are in process now can continue, but those other projects that I showed you in the budget would not be able to be done. So come May 21st, the community is going to vote on 3 propositions this year. The first proposition is naturally, you're going to vote on your annual budget for the school. That's always proposition number 1. Proposition number 2, we're going to ask the community, we are asking the community, I should say, we want to set up a new capital reserve. We want to call it Facility Security and Technology Improvement Program. And 2024 is just a date of when the reserve was set up. So anyone in the future knows how many years the reserve is, because it could be as long as 15 years. It would have a maximum amount that you could put in at any of those years of $30 million in total. And then at the end of each year, we would not be able to put in more than $8.5 million, which is a high number. But we put that in just in case. This proposition doesn't cost the community any money. We're not asking the community to fund this. It's just to give us the permission to open up a capital reserve. So some of you who know, who've been listening for the past few years, probably are saying, but we have a capital reserve. Yes, we do. And that capital reserve, we have maxed it out except for about $3 million. So if FEMA was to send us their money and we got all the stimulus money in the same year, we would have about $12 million that we would need to put somewhere at the end of the close of the year. So we couldn't put it in the old reserve, capital reserve. We have to open up a new one so we could put some of that money into your new reserve. Talking about the capital reserve that you already have, right now, there is $9 million in the reserve. We're not asking the community to give us $9 million. It is already there. You have saved, the community has saved $9 million in this reserve over the past 3 years. We want a permission to withdraw that money out of that reserve and use it for a few things. One thing would be to complete the Daisy and Landing extensions, finish off the classrooms, furnish them, and have a beautiful extension, elevator, the whole thing. We also want to do site work at Daisy and Landing. This was never really addressed, but because of the work, the extensions, a lot of the parking lot got, they weren't great to begin with, but they're even in worse condition now than they were before. So we want to fix the parking lots, make additional parking spaces up by Daisy, which is desperately needed. And naturally, if you're going to put in new parking lots, you need drainage, you need curbs, you need stairs, you need all that. So we want to do that site work and finish off the Daisy and Landing projects. And then the third thing we'd like to do is Thayer House, the administration building. It is beyond needing even paint. I mean, it really needs a lot of work. We have a lot of leaks in the house, and it just needs new siding, gutters, exterior doors. We want to change the entranceway so we make it ADA accessible with a ramp, and just make it look like it should look as an administration building. It's the place that people who come to register their children, they come into Thayer House. That's where registration is. So we'd like it to look the way it should look. Thayer House is a beautiful building. If you've ever been on the inside with the staircase, it is a beautiful building. So we want the outside to reflect that. So the annual vote is on Tuesday, May 21st, between 6 a.m. and 9 p.m. And the same two voting locations, either the high school or Connolly, depending in which election district you're in. And we want to remind you, and everyone remind your neighbors and your families to please come out and vote. And if you have any questions, please email me. I like when, questions are given to us, because then it gives me the idea that some people don't really understand certain things, like that question about the 2% and are we piercing the cap. I'm glad that question came up this morning at another presentation that I did, because this way we can clarify, hopefully for everyone here or anyone listening, exactly what is happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Victoria. So again, there are 3 propositions. First, the budget, which is not in need of a supermajority because our budget is under the tax levy limit. The second is permission to withdraw monies, to create a new capital reserve. No impact to the community. And the third is to withdraw the monies from our current capital reserve, again, having no impact to the community at this time. Is that correct?
Correct.
All right, thank you so much.
Any
questions?
questions from the board at all, or clarification?
I just wanted to say thank you for presenting this throughout the community. I know you and Dr. Rihanna have been to a lot of organizations, and just a reminder that there's still going to be a presentation at Daisy and Landing's joint PTA meeting next week. Probably be next year as well.
I believe it's Tuesday, next Tuesday.
I just wanted to thank you too, Victoria, because I do appreciate the explanation of the allowable levy growth factor, because I do think it confuses people, and I'm glad you were able to explain that very clearly. I actually really understood it this time. I think I could do it myself. Okay.
All right.
So the other thing, though, is I also wanted to say that I felt that it also demonstrated really the importance of us having reserves, because if we didn't have reserves, something like losing the Garvey's Point pilot, which we did this year, unfortunately, I mean, that made up basically the equivalent of what we lost in that pilot payment. So, again, I think
Correct.
that just demonstrates the importance of these reserves, and I hope the public understands that and will vote for the creation of another one. I would like to have the district clerk talk about different ways people can vote, because we have some options, a new option this year that I think she could explain best.
All right, so for those that don't know me, I'm Ida Johnson, and I'm the district clerk for the Glen Cove School District. And one of my responsibilities is to run the annual school district election, and almost every year there is something new that district clerks get thrown at them. This year, New York State has added early voting for school elections. It's different from regular elections where you go to a specific location to cast your vote. Ours is handled via paper ballot and is similar to an absentee ballot, which I'm going to go over. Absentee ballots are used when a voter will not be able to be in the district or at the poll place on the day of election. Absentee ballots, you would have to have a reason not to vote. So there's several reasons for you to obtain one of these ballots, and that's if you're out of the country on election day, if you got a temporary or permanent illness or physical disability, if you're a primary caretaker for someone that's disabled, if you're a resident or a patient at a Veterans Health Administration hospital, as well as if you are detained in prison for any reason. The early mail ballot voter does not have to have any reason not to be able to go to the election site on the day of election. In order to obtain any of these ballots, you would have to do that by completing an application. And there's two different applications on our website. One is for the absentee, and one is for early mail ballot voters. For individuals who are on the Nassau County Absentee Ballot Registry, or what we call the sick and disabled list, they automatically get a ballot to the address listed on the county's roll mailed to them. This includes individuals who are in nursing homes as well as assisted living facilities. The procedure for processing the ballots is as follows. When these applications come in, we check that the voter is registered within our district. Any ballots that are requested before next Tuesday, which is May 14th and a week before the election, they could have their ballot mailed to them. Anything after that date or up to the day before, their ballot can either be picked up by the voter, a designated individual stated on the application, or they can have it hand-delivered to them during normal business hours. And we do check ID for this process just to make sure that we are giving the ballot to the appropriate person. These ballots, all of them, must be received at Thayer House no later than 5 p.m. on the date of election. They should not be brought to any polling place as they will be invalidated. These ballots will be counted at the end of the evening and tallied with all our other results. These ballots, once completed, they can be dropped off 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at Thayer House, and they can be placed in the mail door slot for everyone's convenience. Applications can be found on the main page of the district's website. There's a tab entitled Budget Information next to the Find It Fast button. You can scroll down to the Documents tab at the bottom of the page, where the applications as well as other voting information can be viewed. And yesterday was the last day for anyone to register to vote for this year's election. Any questions?
No? Thanks very much, Ida, I really
Okay.
appreciate it. Okay,
All right.
I guess,
You can have,
what?
question from you on the budget.
Okay. At this time, we'll take questions from the audience. Anybody who has questions about the budget, if you'd like to come forward and ask questions, you just need to sign in with Ida. When you come up to the podium, please state your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes to speak, and we'll respond to your questions after you've stated them all, and afterward, you can have more time if you need clarification. Go ahead.
I have two questions. Janet Blatt, McGrady Street, Glen Cove. One, I read probably online yesterday or the day before about changes being made to the public retirement system in New York State. The Assembly and Senate voted to increase from 3 years to 5 years, and I didn't understand whether that is applicable immediately or that will be for next year, so it doesn't appear in this budget. Anyway, the second question, I asked privately, not to you, didn't get an answer, so I'm asking. On the superintendent's line, is that total that appears $427,761, is that salary and benefit for the superintendent, or does that include other things? And if so, how much is not salary and benefit?
Okay, so for your first question, that, the retirement is for Tier 6.
Excuse me?
Tier 6, people
Yeah,
in
okay.
Tier 6.
Yes.
That's what the change is for. They're going from, like, their final average salary had to be like the last 5 years. Now they're bringing it down to 3 years, like all the other tiers. But I don't believe it's taking effect until 2025.
Okay.
Okay? And as far as the superintendent's line, that encompasses, again, a lot of other lines, not only the superintendent's salary, her secretary's salary, her supplies, her mileage, her conferences, things like that. And that's broken down on the line by line, that's posted on the website, so you could see, you know, what exactly
Can you be
makes up.
specific about where I go to so that I can look at it, because
Call me
Gadgets
to-
and I do not get along.
Call me tomorrow.
Okay, thank
Okay.
you.
Any other questions? Okay, in that case,
Okay,
we'll move
so we
on.
have to end.
Oh, yeah, we have to end this meeting and then start over. Okay.
Yes.
So can I get a motion? Maureen and Leah, all in favor of adjourning? 5, that's all of us? Okay,
And now you have to
okay.
motion.
Now I'm starting again. Okay. Do we have to say the pledge again? Yes.
Huh?
Pledge again, yes?
Yes.
God, I thought so, okay.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, roll call?
Excuse me, Megan Levine?
Ann Markoulis?
Maria Venuto.
Leah Leone, Maureen Jimenez. Me again?
And Lynn, Hurston James, and Angela Ramo are absent for this meeting. Okay, well, but we did the minutes and everything, so
Sorry?
we don't need to do the minutes again.
No, no.
So let's skip ahead to the super's report.
Okay. So, again, I'm going to remind people that there are events this spring in almost every building, and I ask you, I'm going to direct you to our website, both a building website and the district website, to get the calendar of events of all the activities as we go into our final 7 weeks of school. Into the moving up and graduation portion of our school year. Yeah, believe it or not, that went fast. But honestly, we've had some really great events. We have, and along those lines, we had officially opened, had a ribbon cutting ceremony for our new turf field, our lacrosse boys and girls and students during the PE classes are really enjoying the new stadium. The other portion of our construction that is almost ready to open are the tennis complex. That includes tennis, basketball, and handball courts. I think the board has visited and are really proud of the work that's being done. We have not officially opened them to the public. There will be, we are waiting for the cameras to be installed and signs giving direction to the people who will be using that area. Also, the board has indicated that once they are open, they will be open to the public when not in use by the school, and they will close at dusk. So I look forward to the final preparations, but I am sure we will have an official ribbon cutting within the next 2 weeks. Okay? So very exciting there as well. We look forward to some of the construction that is happening this summer, and that will be updated on our construction website, our capital projects website. So if there is any information that you are looking as to where we are in some of the projects, that will be in that area and will be updated right after the Board of Education, the budget vote, and in the coming weeks as we prepare for the summer and then the new school year. I can't believe I'm saying that already. All right. But one of the things that we're going to highlight tonight is really understanding what's going on in our classrooms, in our department, across the district in the area of science. And for someone to prepare to present that information to us, what has been happening and what will happen, is our coordinator for science. And I'm sorry, Alexa, did you want to introduce her? Okay. Is our coordinator of science, Victoria Curtis.
Good evening. Thank you so much. So tonight I am very excited to share with you the dynamic initiatives, the Glen Cove City School District's K-12 science curriculum. This is an exciting time to be a K-12 scientist as we transition to the next generation science standards or the New York State Science Learning Standards. These standards are not only a shift in the disciplinary core ideas that we teach, but the way that these ideas are taught and the science and engineering practices that our K-12 scientists are engaging in to better understand these deeper level science concepts. Through our science units, we emphasize inquiry-based learning, real-world applications, and scientific literacy. These standards serve as the backbone of our educational approach, guiding students to become proficient in science practices and critical thinking skills. This is the new vision for science education. As a parent, you may have noticed these shifts begin to take place in our K-7 science instruction. Our 8-12 instruction will soon follow with the release of the new NISLIS-aligned Regents exams. In this new vision for science education, you will see less rote memorization of facts and vocabulary, less learning of disconnected ideas, and less of teachers providing information and posing questions with just one right answer. Instead, you'll see more facts and terminology learned as needed, systems thinking and modeling to explain phenomena, students conducting investigations and solving problems with teacher guidance, and students discussing questions. On the right here, you can see the science and engineering practices and how they work together to help students make sense of the world. This may be different from what you've seen before in terms of the scientific method, which looks more like this. As you can see, the scientific method is a linear approach to engaging in science, but we know science isn't linear. Science is dynamic. You may ask a question, plan an investigation, interpret the data, and then go back and ask another question. The scientific process is not linear, so our lessons and units are designed strategically to allow for students to engage in these practices in meaningful ways to figure out science phenomena. So what does this look like in the classroom? Each unit begins with an anchoring phenomena, one that you can see here. This is something that happens in the real world and can be observed and causes us to wonder and ask questions. Students wonder about how this occurs, and they brainstorm how we can figure this out. For example, students are presented with a video of Oobleck on a speaker, and students investigate other instruments like drums and guitars to look for patterns in how they make sound. And you might start to notice some patterns yourself. Students continue investigating, building on their understanding of vibrations over time. Here you can see a student using a ruler to observe how it moves back and forth, once released, causing a sound. This is a great visual of vibrations. Here you can see a student using their voice to hum loudly, which causes the sprinkles to dance around through vibrations. Over time and through hands-on experiences, students build on their understanding of sound waves and vibrations. Now, this may be different to how you or I experienced science growing up. Students are not being presented with a vocabulary sheet at the start of the unit, but instead they discover science concepts and then they name them. For example, when students notice that pattern of moving back and forth causing sound, they will then name that as a vibration. This unit culminates in students using their knowledge of what causes sound to create their own instruments. Students also use models to explain their ideas. Students will draw pictures to explain how they think something works at the start of a unit. Then they will revise and add to this model over time to see how their ideas and thinking changes in light of new information and experiences. Here's another example of students using a model to explain their initial ideas in a third grade genetics unit. And you can really see their ideas coming to life. Students continue investigating and their thoughts and ideas become more sophisticated over time. Students continue to name their observations using scientific vocabulary as new concepts are uncovered. After students generate their questions, they then design their own investigations and collect their own data to support or refute their ideas. Here, our second grade scientists are testing their ideas of what they think plants need in order to grow. Through this authentic lab experience, students are not following a prescribed lab procedure where they're told what to do and how to do it. They instead are designing their own investigations themselves, working to answer their own questions, and are introduced to concepts such as independent variables, dependent variables, and controls as a tool to guide their lab designs. And this is second grade. Students will also synthesize and communicate their learning. Here you can see an example of fourth grade students making their learning public. After students collect their data, they may have new questions that they want to investigate. For example, after dissolving Alka-Seltzer in water, they may wonder why the temperature changes, or what might happen if they crushed up the Alka-Seltzer. Will it dissolve faster than an uncrushed tablet? Students are given opportunities to ask questions throughout the unit and design follow-up investigations. Students then revise their models in light of the new information they've learned, revisit their initial questions to see if they've been answered, and here you can see the different colors used throughout different parts of the unit that were added once new information was gathered. Here's another example where students learned about fast and slow changes and revised their models over time in light of new information. All of these routines are strategic to allow for students to act as real scientists, figuring out complex phenomena in the world around them. You may notice, again, they don't begin with a unit vocabulary list or reading telling them how things work. Instead, they are asking the questions, they are driving the investigations, and the teacher is the facilitator of this learning. When sharing this exciting work on Twitter, science teachers and leaders across the country were very impressed with what our young scientists were doing to build their ideas over time. And I also have to shout out some of our 3 to 5 stream students for helping to create some of the materials that we're using in our K-2 investigations. At the 3 to 5 level, we've successfully implemented the New York State required investigations. And when you hear from some of our K-12 scientists in a moment, you may even notice that they're sharing that these were some of their favorite lessons from the year. I was also asked to present at a science coordinators networking meeting on how we have worked to embed these investigations into our unit strategically to ensure that they're meaningful to students and their learning progression. As stated earlier, you may have noticed these shifts have begun to take place in our K-7 science instruction. Our 8 to 12 instruction will soon follow with the release of the NISLIS aligned Regents exams. New exams will first be released in biology and earth and space sciences. Chemistry and physics will follow shortly thereafter. We are working diligently as a department to align our instruction to these practices as well as our assessments to the new task-based format. Now, I could stand up here and talk about this for hours because I love science, but I thought it might be better to see some of this learning in action and hear it straight from our K-12 scientists. Oop. Okay. We tested it too.
Old memories and
We're working on the volume.
This year we learned about traits and genetics, and when we were doing it, we had this lesson where we got to pick different animals and we can make them into new species. I picked the camel, and I would take the ones with longer fur and paler colors to breed them together so then we would have a snow camel so they could live in the Arctic biome.
My favorite science lesson was learning about the foxes and their artificial selection, and I liked how the scientists breeded different types of foxes to make friendly foxes.
My favorite lesson in science is about the hand. Like, did you know there is a string in your hand called a tendon that makes your hand go wherever you want and do whatever you need to do too? And if I don't make it to the NBA, I always have my backup job to be a hand surgeon.
Hola, me llamo Oli. Me gusta mucho la clase de ciencia. Vemos videos, leemos artículos y hacemos proyectos. Mi favorito experimento era cuando hicimos un modelo del ojo. Aprendimos cómo trabaja el ojo. Era muy excelente.
Hi, my name is Chizamuzo, and my favorite lesson was about the solar eclipse. I liked it because after the lesson, I got to observe it in real life, and it was as cool as they said it would be in the video.
We put the moons on the sticks, and we put a sun on the smartboard, and then we try to block the sun with the moon.
What do you guys think? You guys see half the sun? Yeah.
And we took things to the window, see if it was transparent, translucent, and opaque. My favorite experiment this year was the Alka-Seltzer because it was a chemical reaction and there was bubbles made. The crush up Alka-Seltzer was dissolved faster than the whole one.
Hi, my name is Brian.
Hi, my name is Joshua, and we're in 5th grade, and our favorite science lesson this year was when we made a cloud in a bottle because it was cool and fun.
And we collected different data to see what made a better cloud. And I liked it.
Hi, my name is Uma Chavez. I'm a 6th grader. The best lesson in science this year was earthquakes because we were plotting earthquakes and an actual earthquake happened. And it was exciting and also a little bit scary because we didn't know if it was actually an earthquake.
A mí me gusta cuando estaban diciendo que primero comenzaban con un huevo, después comenzaban como un renacuajo y después terminaban como adultos ranas.
saw cracks coming inside of the cocoa powder and milk. And that's how an earthquake is made. So here's how a guitar works. When you do the string vibrates and sound waves go in the hole inside of the guitar. Then it bounces out of the guitar, and then that's how you hear it.
So I would love to thank all of these wonderful students for speaking to their learning this year. I think it was much better than if I had described all of those lessons and learning experiences. And I had so many of our K-12 students eager to speak to their learning from this year that in the interest of time, I had to create an extended version of that video, which I'll be sure to share with you all at a later time. But being in our classrooms and seeing our K-12 scientists in action, I'm always so impressed with their ideas and how they grapple with such complex science concepts. Outside of the classroom, I am blown away by the work our scientists are doing. Here you can see just some of our high school scientists engaging in amazing work outside of the classroom. Now, before I conclude, I just want to take a moment to reflect and look back at some of the exciting things we've accomplished this year, such as our family stream night at the beginning of the year, our solar eclipse visits to the elementary buildings and our celebrations, our partnerships with the Vanderbilt Planetarium, Cold Spring Harbor, NYIT, Northwell Glen Cove Hospital, as well as the competitions we've had students enter this year, like the Science Olympiad and the Stony Brook Women's in History competition. And I want to leave us off looking ahead, because the year is not over, at what's still to come, which leaves us with our K-2 Eco Carnival, our Research Symposium and Grade 4 and 5 Science Fair, our Grade 4 Cow Eye Dissection, our Grade 2 Chemistry Day, our Grade 6 visit with our second grade scientists so they can share their volcano research, and so much more. And if you've enjoyed this presentation, please follow our district Instagram page, where you can find all of these pictures and videos of our scientists in action, and more news can be found on our district website. Thank you all so much for your time.
Victoria, thank you so very, very much. You know, you talk to the students and you know that they're doing some fabulous work, but when you see it in a presentation, you would think that all their time is focused on, you know, science, and I know your colleagues in the other areas will fight you for that time. But together, I think that you as the science coordinators and others in their area of expertise have really come together to enhance the opportunities and the experiences that we give our students pre-K all the way to 12. I thank you so very, very much. I may have been a science teacher had I had some of those experiences when I was younger. But I truly, truly thank you and the other coordinators for all the work they've done all year to enhance the experiences our students have.
Thank you, and thank you to the board for your support always.
Does the board have any questions?
Thanks very much, Victoria. That was really great. Does any, yeah.
Don't you want to be in the classroom?
Little, yeah, we're jealous. Okay, thanks so much. Okay, so moving on.
And that's the superintendent's report.
Thank you. So the student board member is not with us tonight. We'll move on from that. So next would be public participation. If anybody has anything, agenda-related questions or comments, you can ask them now. Okay, and if you're home and listening to this meeting and you have questions, you can also email us. I don't see anybody here who's going to come forward, so we're going to move on to the instructional report.
Based on the recommendation of the Superintendent of Schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve Agenda Item 7 on the Instructional Report, A, Committee on Special Education, and B, Committee on Preschool Special Education.
Can I get a motion? Leah and Maureen. Questions? All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, a motion is requested for the approval of agenda item 8, business affairs, A, finance 1 and 2.
Motion? Megan and Ann. Questions? All in favor? What? Leah? Okay, that's 5.
Upon the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, a motion is requested for the approval of agenda item 8, business affairs, B, operations 1 through 8.
Motion. Megan and Leah. Any questions, comments? All in favor? 5. Sure, go ahead. What do you?
You've just approved a donation of a trumpet from Fred Nielsen of Glen Cove's School District for the Fine and Performing Arts Department. And we want to thank Fred for his donation. Truly appreciate it as it enhances our opportunities for our students.
Thank you very much for the donation. We're going to move on to personnel.
Based on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve agenda item 9A certified 1 through 9 as amended.
Can I get a motion? Ann and Megan. Questions? All in favor? That's 5, okay.
Based on the recommendation of the superintendent of schools, I ask the Board of Education to approve agenda item 9B classified 1 through 9.
Motion? Leah and Maureen. Questions? All in favor? It's okay. 5, okay.
Both agenda items that were just approved included retirements. I apologize. And we are looking forward to June 5th, where we are going to celebrate all the individuals who recently earned tenure this year, as well as who are retiring this year. So we're looking forward to that celebration ceremony on June 5th.
Yeah, that should be a lot of fun. There'll be cake. Cupcakes. Okay, cupcakes. I'll take any kind of cake. Okay, so now we are at, sorry, I'm losing my place, unfinished business. I don't believe we have any new business. We do have some of that. We are on, what? Education. Yeah. I'm sorry. All right. Just give me a second. Okay, so what we want to do, the board has discussed it, and what we have in the past had a education committee. So what we're going to do is recreate that committee so that we can look into some specific issues related to education. So that committee will have 3 board members on it, and I've appointed Maureen Jimenez, Leah Leone, and Ann Markoulis, and they have agreed to serve on that board. So I believe you guys will be meeting soon. I think we're already talking about dates, which is great. And we plan to move forward with this committee into the next year, but we'll have to approve that when we do reorg. But I'm glad to see you guys off to a good start here. Any board comments? Ann?
Hello? Oh, okay, sorry. I just wanted to take an opportunity to wish all of our teachers and staff. This week is Staff and Teacher Appreciation Week. So I just wanted to thank you all so much for everything that you do for our students, because without you, it wouldn't happen. So I want to applaud each and every one of you, and I just want to thank you very, very much from the bottom of my heart.
Go ahead, Leah.
I also, on that note, would like to thank all the PTAs who have been involved in organizing lots of nice treats and events for our teachers throughout the week. So thank you to the PTAs.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay, Megan.
I saw over the weekend that these were put up. I wanted to just thank the City of Glen Cove, the Beautification Committee, and I think the bid had a piece of it, putting up the banners of our graduates. They look great, the banners. It was just such a great way to celebrate our students and their accomplishments and highlight it to the community, and it was just a wonderful thing to see. So I want to thank, that was a real partnership. I want to thank everyone who was involved, and I think DPW put them all up, which was, I know, a lot of work, so thank you to them as well.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, so we'll move on to our last public participation, which is non-agenda items.
Sorry, can I add one thing, which I
Yeah.
should have said in the budget hearing?
Oh.
But sometimes there's questions as to where to vote on for the trustee and budget vote. And so Glen Cove, as I think most people know, for this purpose, has two voting locations, polling places, which is the high school and Connolly. But then the question remains, like, where do I vote? And so our website, under the district tab, under Board of Education, has a link that is very clearly marked that says, where do I vote? And when you open it, it lists your street and it tells you where you vote. So I think about only 25% of the district votes at Connolly, but if you think you might vote there, it's very easy to find out on the website.
Thank you. Good to know. Okay, so if anybody has any questions or comments on non-agenda items, you can come forward, or I don't see anybody who's taking interest in that. But again, if you're watching at home, you can email us, gcboe@glencovschools.org, if you have questions about the budget or anything you've watched tonight. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to call for adjournment. If there's any, can I get a motion on that? Megan and Ann, all in favor of adjourning? That's all 5 of us. Thanks very much. Thanks to Glen Cove TV for recording and streaming us. Huh? Too fast? Want to stay longer?